watch the 6 Types to Avoid by Dr. Umar Johnson on YouTube. Yep, 6 Types to Avoid, Dr. Umar Johnson on YouTube. And they say parents and their teens should watch it, plus The Dark Side and The Dark Side Revisited. That is also by Umar Johnson on YouTube, yeah? So just Google in there, Umar Johnson on YouTube with your teens, and hopefully there's some light will come through. All right, now we're joined today for the latter part of our show by the sister in Shawna, who has, I'm going to say, an interesting view around what is happening with the perpetrators who perpetrated back in the 60s and the 70s, maybe only then or right through to the 21st century, and are now their crimes are catching them up, basically, and they're being given sentences, they're being investigated and whatever. And Shawna, now, I do not want to quote you direct, but what I was picking up the vibe was that you're feeling that these are people now in their 70s and their 80s, they're being persecuted under 2013 morality and how we're seeing it, whereas back in the day, and this is where I've got to be careful because you may not be saying this, but back in the day, their crimes may not have been seen as heinous as we see them today.
Oh, that's exactly right, Culture. That's what I'm saying. There's so many crimes. We've all been in school, I suspect, with teachers, or if you're of a certain age, with teachers who went out with a pupil or two.
Yes, we know that.
Perhaps those teachers would be prosecuted as well as the infamous ones like...
Well, to be honest with you, sis, right, in this day and age, and that's the whole thing about abuse of power, of your power in terms of the school. That is a dismissible, sackable, and an illegal offence back in the day as it is today. And I know that in terms of the organisation that I work for.
I would imagine that was true, but very few of them were ever prosecuted, and it was quite open, the relationships.
I would really challenge that, but go on.
No, it's happened quite a few times in my school. Some of the teachers are very, quite close in age to the 17-year-olds or 15, 16, 17-year-olds. They may have themselves been in their early 20s.
Yeah, it didn't go, I think, in fact, it wasn't about... if you had a teacher with a 15-year-old, where obviously that would be illegal and seen as statutory rape.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though you had arguments like you said, the 20-year-old teacher with the 18-year-old student, it was still a sackable offence. Now, I hear what you're saying.
A blind eye was put.
Yeah.
In many cases.
And I don't have okay. And what I'm going to just say is that in terms of paedophile behaviours, which is what these so-called past celebrities and whoever else is are now being charged with, these predominantly weren't with consenting 18-year-olds.
Oh, I'm not sure. I've not read into the case, so I don't know how consensual the interaction between the adult and the child was. But yes, wrong is wrong, but the morality in the 60s and the morality in 2013 is completely different.
All right, so the question I put to you is that whether we're talking 1960 or we're talking 2013, the rape and abuse of a 5 or 6-year-old child, right, where is the morality stakes different there?
That's not comparable. With a young adult and an innocent child.
Right, okay, so you could see, this is why I said I wanted just to unpick this slightly, because what we were talking about earlier was the paedophiles of. What I'm hearing from you is that you're saying that, because don't forget, these so-called celebrities are not being charged. I mean, some are about 15 and 16, which again is statutory rape, and like you said, they may have turned a blind eye. The majority are children younger. We're talking children, not teenagers.
I'm not talking people like Jimmy Savile or whatever. I've not read into the cases that were talked about this week and people who were being charged and prosecuted. I'm not talking Because I don't know the details of those cases.
All right, but do you need to know the details to know?
Perhaps so, because rock stars, I'm sure that, you know, quite a famous rock stars who had, what do they call it, the young people hanging around. Groupies. Are they going to be prosecuted? Where is this going to stop? Or is it just going to be television people? Or will it be teachers, people, well, priests definitely should, and teachers definitely should, because they were in a position of power. But there were Boy Scouts and
but
whatnot.
let me challenge you though then, that rock star, are they not also in a position of power? Right, when they've got little 14, 12-year-old groupies or whatever performing sexual favours. We're not going to go into any detail on that, because my stance is that wrong is wrong. That it comes up slightly a bit more murky when you're talking 16, 17-year-olds, because now the statutory age, it is consensual. Yeah, and that could be a 16-year-old with a 40-year-old lad who wants to know why. But what my thing of it is that even if we pull aside the two, when you're talking about the 15-year-old with the teacher, right, to me is as wrong, because the paedophile, because the whole thing is around power, isn't it? I mean, maybe when the young boy or girl is older, there might be some sexual gratification there, but it's predominantly about the abuse of power, regardless of. So I go back to the kind of the statement that you made in terms of that we're using the morality of today, and some would argue we are less moral in 2013 than we were, say, in the 60s or 70s.
In some sense, yes, but prosecuting people who cause offence in the sexual nature, I think now we hold tight against rape or an indecent assault much more than we did in the 60s. And how old were some of these people in the 60s? Were they?
Is it relevant? They were in positions of power, and that is a point I always go back to.
Positions of power. Sometimes you elect to be in a position of power, and sometimes your talent. People put that position of power to you, and you're just a talented person, a singer or whatnot, and people say, well, you're a role model, and you didn't actually take on that role.
No, I absolutely agree, but the fact that if you're going to be seen as a celebrity and be seen as that role model, all right, see, to me it's either do one of two things, is to stand up and declare, I'm not nobody role model, I'm going to do the nastiness that I want to do and leave me. And I'm not hearing many people saying that, because to me you cannot take the glory of the celebrity status, right, and not take on board the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah, I find it very difficult to judge coming from a normal 9-to-5 kind of experience work-wise, and with the television media rock world. I think that's a different world to my experience. But I'm not condoning people who abuse young people or children. If it's abuse, I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying there could have been relationships. Yeah, it's still going into. You're saying your other topic about children having relationships. Does it affect their schoolwork? I know lots of cases where people have had relationships in their school, and they're still married, they're still together 50 years on, and it's not affected their ambition or their career. And actually it was a choice. Maybe they didn't want that career. They wanted to raise a family. All
right. Before we move on to that, where I want to seal off, right? Because everybody know we love closure on certain things. Is that, and I think the irony for me is if those paedophiles, which is what I call them, were caught back in the day. They either would have had no sentence, a very limited sentence, because like you said, within the 21st century, legislation, awareness, and so on and so forth, right, is tightening it. So when they have now been caught in their 60s and 70s, they are getting the full weight of the law on them. Because for me, for no other reason, if they committed these atrocities back in the 60s, argument's sake, they've been living good life ever since. Their victims, their survivors, have had to live with that over that period of time. So justice has come, but she's come late, but she's now coming to a time, like you said, well, maybe they're taking these things more seriously, so their sentences are now more serious. And me just say, that's all good.
Okay, I say all good, but don't let it just stop with the media people, because this was going on in all walks of world.
Yeah, but okay, before, just to say is that I did jury service a few years back, and it was, obviously can't go into the detail, a man who had sexually abused his stepdaughter. Yeah, so it's going on. That would never really make the paper. I mean, just the local paper in terms of his sentencing. So there are those anonymous, people that we will never know, who are going through the course on a whatever, however regular, being charged with the same assaults. The difference in this case is that because they are celebrities or names, that we hear about it. But believe it is not just the so-called celebrity well-knowns who are being prosecuted. It's just the fact that they're known.
Yes, I think you're right, because I've heard of a couple of pastors in the town where I grew up being prosecuted for things that they've done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
And we don't know about them. Yeah.
So I think but you know, where is it going to stop?
I will tell you when it's going to stop. It is going to stop when it done, when our paedophile behavior done. So it may never stop, because the persecution and when I say the harassment, the jailing of these people must continue till the behavior stop.
Not just in this society is paedophile behavior.
It's global.
It's a global thing.
Yes.
And it's worse in some parts of the world than it ever is here. It's accepted that big man go with children. I'm
hearing that, but you see, the thing of it is, sis, if we keep pointing to over there to say over there is worse than over here, to justify it being, we keep it lax here, that can't work.
I hear you, and I don't agree with it being lax. I agree with, but I'm just wary that, you know, we might be overzealous.
Sis, me and you are friends, right? So that's why I'm just gonna kind of be easy on you, all right? Because you cannot be overzealous with our children. You just can't be that. Now you see, I start to storm. Now me are trying to open up this text thing, right? I think someone's just agreed with what I've said, all right? Because if we keep saying it's worse over there, so it's okay. And I'm not saying you're saying it's okay for here. Lord, somebody come and help me open this text. All right, we're having a problem here today. All right, maybe it's because I'm getting a little bit agitated. All right, because the thing is, we cannot minimize something that is this serious. All right, and we cannot compress it and suppress it, because it is a global issue. You see what I'm saying? All right, so. Okay, AAA again, give thanks, says these cases, and we're talking about the high profile cases, will encourage those who leave their morality to the group and what they can get away with to know that you may get away with it, but your days are numbered. You hear that, everybody? Your days are numbered, because we're not ramping, we're not joking, we are here to protect our children, to protect our future, as simple things.
Protect the girl child.
Oh yes, as Ginger, you hear that on the film. Protect the girl child. Now I know that my sister here with me is not condoning any of these behaviors at all. Maybe she's just on a different mountain peak, looking at it from a different experience. All right, okay, right. So what we're gonna do. What we're going to do now is, look at that. You see, we get so fired up. We're literally 12 minutes from the hour of geese neck, all right?